The AGT theater slowly settles into a deep, expectant silence as the spotlight sweeps across the massive stage and finally rests on a young Filipino man standing alone at the center. His name is Miguel Santos, and he has traveled all the way from Cebu City, Philippines, carrying not just his dream but the quiet hopes of everyone who ever believed in his voice back home. The lights shimmer softly behind him, reflecting off the glossy floor, while the audience watches with curiosity. Miguel takes a deep breath, his hands slightly trembling, yet his eyes are calm, focused, and full of determination. This is not just another audition for him, this is a once-in-a-lifetime moment. He introduces himself with a gentle smile, his accent warm and sincere as he explains where he comes from. He talks briefly about Cebu City, about growing up surrounded by music, family gatherings, and songs that played during both celebrations and difficult times. Music, he says, has always been his way of expressing feelings he could never fully put into words. As he speaks, the audience listens closely, sensing an honesty that feels rare and refreshing. Simon Cowell watches carefully, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp, clearly measuring every word and every movement. When Miguel reveals his song choice, Celine Dion's "I Love You," a soft murmur spreads through the crowd. It is a powerful, emotional song, and expectations rise instantly. Simon raises an eyebrow slightly, aware of how challenging the song is and how easily it can go wrong if not handled with care. Miguel closes his eyes for a brief moment, as if gathering all his courage, then nods gently to the band. The first note floats into the air, quiet and controlled, yet rich with emotion. From the very beginning, Miguel's voice carries a softness that immediately draws people in. It is not loud or dramatic, but tender and sincere, as though he is singing directly to one person rather than a packed theater. The room grows still, every seat filled with listeners leaning forward, afraid to miss even a single note. His voice flows smoothly, each lyric pronounced with care, wrapped in genuine feeling. As the melody unfolds, Miguel's confidence grows. His breathing is steady, his tone consistent, and there is a natural warmth in his voice that makes the song feel intimate and personal. The audience begins to feel the emotion behind every word, sensing that this performance comes from a real place in his heart. Simon Cowell's expression subtly changes, the familiar look of skepticism softens into curiosity. He tilts his head slightly, listening more closely, clearly surprised by the control and emotion Miguel brings to such a demanding song. The stage lights glow gently around him, framing his silhouette as if the entire theater exists only for this moment. Miguel stands still, letting his voice do all the work, trusting the song and his feelings to carry him forward. The atmosphere feels almost fragile, like a quiet confession shared in the open. In this moment, it becomes clear that Miguel is not trying to impress with volume or tricks. He is simply sharing his heart, allowing his voice to speak where words alone never could. As the song moves deeper into its melody, Miguel's voice begins to unfold with greater strength and emotional depth, yet it never loses its softness. Each line feels carefully placed, as though he understands not just the lyrics, but the story behind them. The audience remains completely silent, wrapped in the atmosphere he is creating. It feels less like a televised competition and more like a private moment shared between Miguel and thousands of listeners at the same time. His eyes open slowly, and there is a quiet confidence in the way he looks forward, no longer nervous, but fully present. The music swells slightly, and Miguel allows his voice to rise with it. He doesn't rush the song, instead, he lets every note breathe. The emotion in his voice grows stronger, revealing hints of longing and sincerity that touch something deep in the hearts of those listening. A few audience members clasp their hands together, others gently nod along, completely absorbed. The judges' table is unusually still. Everyone seems to understand that interrupting this moment would break something delicate. Simon Cowell, who began the audition with visible caution, now leans forward, resting his arms on the desk. His face shows focused attention rather than judgment. He listens closely, picking up on the subtle control in Miguel's vocals, the way he holds back just enough to make the emotion feel real rather than forced. Simon has heard this song many times before, but there is something different here. Miguel is not copying Celine Dion, he is honoring her while telling his own story through the music. As Miguel approaches the more challenging parts of the song, his breathing remains calm and steady. When he reaches the higher notes, he delivers them smoothly, without strain, allowing them to flow naturally rather than pushing too hard. The sound fills the theater, clear and pure, sending a soft wave of emotion through the crowd. A few gasps can be heard, not loud enough to interrupt, but enough to show surprise and admiration. Some audience members begin to wipe away tears, clearly moved by the honesty of the performance. The lighting on stage slowly intensifies, casting a warm glow that mirrors the feeling in Miguel's voice. He stands firmly in place, not relying on movement or gestures, trusting the power of his singing to carry the moment. His face reflects the emotion of the song, eyes slightly shining, expression open and vulnerable. It feels as though he is singing from a deeply personal memory, even if no one knows exactly what that memory is. The judges exchange brief glances. One of them smiles softly, another nods in quiet approval. Simon's lips press together in a thoughtful expression, and he gives a small nod, clearly impressed by the restraint and maturity in Miguel's performance. This is not just a good audition. It is the kind of performance that makes people forget they are watching a competition. The AGT theater feels suspended in time, held together by a single voice carrying a message of love. As the song nears its end, Miguel gently lowers the intensity, bringing the melody back to a tender, intimate place. He does not oversing the final lines. Instead, he allows them to fade naturally, leaving a lingering emotion in the air. The last note hangs softly in the theater, and for a brief second, there is complete silence. No one rushes to clap. Everyone simply feels the moment, fully aware that they have just witnessed something sincere and rare. The silence that follows the final note feels almost sacred, as if the entire AGT theater is holding its breath. Miguel stands still at the center of the stage, his chest rising slowly as he takes in a quiet breath, unaware for a brief moment of what is about to happen. Then, like a wave crashing all at once, the audience rises to its feet. Applause fills the room, loud and endless, mixed with cheers that echo from every corner of the theater. The emotion that Miguel poured into the song now returns to him multiplied, and his eyes widen slightly in disbelief. He presses his lips together, overwhelmed, and bows his head respectfully as the clapping continues. At the judges' table, Simon Cowell finally leans back in his chair, a rare smile forming on his face. He waits for the applause to calm before speaking, clearly wanting to give the moment the respect it deserves. When he does speak, his voice is calm but sincere. He tells Miguel that singing a Celine Dion song is always risky, especially one filled with so much emotion, but what made this performance special was its honesty. Simon explains that Miguel did not try to overpower the song or imitate the original. Instead, he connected with it and allowed the emotion to guide his voice. That, Simon says, is what made the performance memorable. Miguel listens carefully, his hands clasped together as he nods, visibly moved by the feedback. Simon adds that the control, restraint, and purity in Miguel's voice showed maturity beyond his years. He points out how rare it is to see a singer trust simplicity on such a big stage. The other judges follow with warm praise, highlighting how the performance made them feel rather than focusing only on technique. One judge mentions that it felt like Miguel was singing directly to the hearts of everyone in the room. The audience responds with another round of applause, and Miguel finally allows himself to smile, a soft, grateful smile filled with relief and joy. He thanks the judges and the audience, his voice slightly shaky but full of appreciation. In that moment, it becomes clear that this audition is more than just a step in the competition. For Spread the Smile, it is a story about how music from Cebu City, Philippines, traveled across the world and touched souls on the AGT stage. Miguel walks off knowing that, regardless of the outcome, he has already succeeded in spreading something beautiful, love, sincerity, and a smile that will be remembered long after the lights fade.